Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Far End of the Bench podcast. My name is Jimmy Pilato. If you've been here before, you know me. You know that this week in particular is going to be one of the more interesting weeks that I've ever had on this show. I have always, true and forever, for the last 18 years, I have been a staunch supporter of like three generations deep in Denver, Colorado. It makes zero sense why I was a Bengals fan, but I will tell everybody that I was a Bengals fan for a lot longer than just Joe Burrow and this team going to the playoffs and everything. This week in particular is going to be interesting for me because I have to make a decision, and I'm not going to let you know what that decision is. I haven't even let Nico know what that decision is, but I do have to make a decision because, yes, I have declared loyalty to another team. I have declared loyalty back to my hometown team, which I am able to do. I'm going to give myself the pass because it is my hometown team. And I've been having a lot of fun. I really enjoy watching a team where the coaches in the style that I appreciate. However, I just think back to a lot of the times, my existence, it would have been so much easier if I would have just picked the team of the city of where I live, because I've been in Power Field at Mile High, where the Bengals and the Broncos were both good and one seed positions, trying to compete and possibly go on for I think it was the year that the Broncos ended up winning the Super Bowl. They beat the Bengals here at home, and that stopped the Patriots from getting the number one seed that year, and that was the season the Broncos went on to win the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of history wrapped up personally just for me in this matchup. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. I hope that everybody is excited for the discussion that we're going to have, because that is going to be coming up. I'm sure that I'm going to get an earful from my co-host for not having a true side that I'm picking. I will say that this is, if it couldn't be a game for possibly the one seed or both teams coming in as division leaders, at least this game does mean something. It was flexed for a reason. I was initially planning on going out to Cincinnati to possibly see this game and be on the winning side, see my team playing in the home stadium, because I've seen countless games, like I said, as a Bengals fan here at Empower Field. I decided not to get out there. It wasn't going to work out monetary-wise, so it was a smarter decision not to go. But the fact that it was flexed to Saturday night, the fact that it means something for both sides, you can't sit here and tell me that the Bengals fan and the Broncos fan in me have ample reason to be arguing this week. There's going to be ample reason for Nico to be fired up about this game this week. When we get to it in the pick'em, and when we get to it in our discussion, it is going to be a very, very exciting and a very, very pressing matchup that we get to talk about, which is awesome when it comes down to the two teams that we've been supporting on this show for the last 4 years. Episode 212 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. I'm going to get Nico brought in here. That is coming up after this.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
I'm glad that it worked out that I got that one, because I needed to get that out of the way. I know that I've been back and forth, and I get shit from Terrell pretty much every time that he comes here on Talking the Gridiron, that I'll go back and forth, and I have two girlfriends. I've made the argument that I'm just sitting back. I'm being single for a little bit, trying to enjoy the sport, and I get to enjoy the sport because that game that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, the Broncos and Bengals, obviously flexed to primetime Saturday night. It's the biggest game in the history of this show, specifically. Just the little, no. Listen, Nico, stop before you cut me off. The little sphere of football that we've had, we have never had a game between our two teams that actually means this much.
We've had two teams win championships.
Nico, you're missing what I said. You're missing what I said. The football universe, this is the biggest game that we've had between our two teams.
Yeah. See, that's fair. That's fair clarification. Football, in terms of football, yes, this is the biggest game we've had by far and away. Football, not everything else.
It's almost big enough to warrant a live show after the reaction. We'll see what we decide. But I'm just
first of all,
as a football fan myself, this is an awesome moment in the football history of the show.
And before we even get into any of this, happy belated Christmas, Merry Christmas to everybody, and happy Hanukkah for those that are celebrating. I know we're in the midst of Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa to those. I know that started as well. It's the best weekend of the year. There's a reason why Santa is our thumbnail, dunking a basketball. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas with everybody, because this past week was, I know I spent a lot of great time with family. Jimmy did the same, and it's been a wonderful time of the year to enjoy sports and enjoy your loved ones around. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas and enjoying their Hanukkah and Kwanzaa.
I did get a little bit overexcited, but that is the main thing that did happen this week. That's why we're coming a day later. That's why I get to enjoy all of my presents. That's the best part about being a teacher, is that you get winter break, you get summer break, you get all of the time off in the middle, but I get to enjoy all of my presents before I have to go back to work. I don't have to worry about, my mom's back at the office, my dad's upstairs working at the office, and I'm just sitting here. I was burnt out. I will not lie. I slept for a solid 48 hours. All the teachers can attest to that, but seeing the family, getting, it's not about the things that you get, but it's about the time that you spend. And that was, last year with the cruise that we were on, I was thinking about it. I was in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean at this time last year. I was getting back on the 31st. So that was different. I hadn't seen some of my dad's side of the family in 2 years. I hadn't seen a lot of the people that we had over here on Christmas Eve for 2 years. And it was a great experience, and it was a great thing that we did. But thinking about it and looking back on it now, I'm glad that we got back to a little bit of normalcy, because seeing the family is what makes this thing special. And I think you agree with that. And I know that you probably did a lot of the same things. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that. Hopefully you followed, subscribed. You've been watching us over here. We've been putting out a lot of content. We had about 8 or 9 videos drop last week with the first round of college football playoff. We'll see how many we have coming up. But if you're not following or subscribed already, at FEOTB Pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a like, a comment, tell your friends. We are open to negative criticism as long as you like and subscribe. Give us the little bit of recognition and everything like that. We will continue on and go with that show. Any highlights from Christmas that you want to mention, or anything big that's going on?
Getting to spend time with my nephew and my family. Like I said, it's not been the easiest year for either of our families, and getting to spend this time of the year with them and be able to watch basketball during Christmas Day and be able to throw on a Christmas movie with everyone around is you can't beat that. So it's I'm very, very thankful for those little things, because like I said, when you go through hard times, it makes you cherish these times even more. So can't be more thankful for that.
I think that's a great way to get us into the things that have been going on. Last time we saw everybody, we had Dom with us. It was a little bit different setup. It was our bonus episode that we've now done for the 5th year in a row. We had our brackets and the playoffs. Playoffs have started. We're getting geared up. By the time this episode comes out, we are getting ready. Before the next episode drops, we're going to have the second round of the playoffs already be met. So we'll have the semifinals all set up. So we'll do a little bit of recap. We're going to do a little bit of predictions. The show itself, if you haven't watched it, go back, check it out. You can watch the little short clips where we're just talking about the game specifically, but it's always fun to have Dom around. You two don't agree because he's a Jets fan, and we've already established that we're not talking about this team, that team anymore on this show. But for the first round of the playoffs, what I noticed as a trend in the brackets, Dom and I went with a lot of craziness and uncertainty. Nico, you took the safe bet, and in college sports, when you have a playoff game, it's the home game, the home matchup, and the home teams go 4-0 this first round, first time ever in the playoffs. Clemson goes down at Texas, Tennessee loses at Ohio State, SMU loses at Penn State, and Indiana kicked the thing off with getting absolutely demolished on the road in their home state at Notre Dame. I think we should start with the first game of the weekend, because it did kind of set a tone for everything else that we saw. But it came down to a few plays early on in the game. Like, I think we'll talk about the first game of Saturday as well. But that interception by Curtis Rourke, the 98-yard touchdown run, from there, I think that was the point I texted you. It's going to be a defensive struggle, but I was just trying to sell it to myself, because I knew that 98-yard touchdown run was Notre Dame giving the finger to everybody, and Kirk Cignetti on the sideline thinking, oh, when we play top 25 teams, we beat the shit out of them. The only top 25 team you played beat you by 20. And now the second top 25 team that you played beat you by 20, or by 10, because you scored a couple pity points at the end of the game. I am let it be known from this point forward, I will not be on the Indiana and Kurt Cignetti bandwagon until it is proven otherwise. Hopefully they use this as a positive thing, but I don't know how you can spin that to a positive thing. That was an absolute beatdown on Friday night.
Let me toot my home for a little bit. Yes, I did go undefeated the first 4 games. Won every single game, got them all right. Very, very proud of that. Either way, so going into this first game, Indiana proved that they're still a basketball school. Congratulations. Congratulations, Indiana. You're still a basketball school. And you're not a very good basketball school anymore anyways. Like, what I saw from Indiana was that Cignetti showed that, first of all, he didn't have the balls to win that game.
That punt was so bad.
That
was so bad.
You want to concede? You want to give up that hard? This is a team that fought so hard throughout the regular season that Jimmy stood up on his chair and said that the Indiana Hoosiers are going to win the Big Ten, that they're going to have a chance to a first round bye, that they're going to be this, that, the other thing. And then you get your ass ran over by a Notre Dame team that ran it down your throat and made your offense look like a FCS school where Cignetti formerly coached at. Like, and that's literally how bad this team looked. It looked like Cignetti, welcome to the fucking big leagues. Welcome to the big leagues, son, because you're not playing Nebraska, who you call the top 25 ranked team anymore. Welcome to the fucking big leagues. You're not playing a James Madison as another top 25 ranked team. This is Notre Dame football. And this Notre Dame team is not very good either. They're the second tier of wave of teams that were like, okay, they could make a run if they get a right side of bracket, if they have opponents play bad, but they're not a real. Like, by the time this bracket ends, they could sneak themselves into the national championship conversation. But we did not see them at all as that first tier of teams that could win national championship this year.
There's a reason why I called this the opposite way. I said that Indiana was going to shut them out because I had given into the hype. And Notre Dame, it's not all on everybody else. Notre Dame deserves a lot of the credit for their negative view because you had that terrible loss to Northern Illinois.
Which was, mind you, 3 months ago.
But I get it. I get it, but that's still going to be in the back of your mind. And that's why we can sit here and confidently say that this is a second-tier team. That is still the one of the hallmark cards that you can go back to. The reason
why I argued against that was because Indiana played A-ranked team and got their ass kicked more recently in the last 3-4 weeks. Literally. And we say a team that lost 3 months ago, yes, Northern Illinois sucks. But that Notre Dame from 3 months ago is a lot different than the Notre Dame team right now. And Marcus Freeman showed why they're a much better coach team than Kurt Cignetti and Indiana, and why they're a much more well-sound team than Indiana, and putting it on them. And look, frankly, the whole conversation, and we're not going to have this conversation. We'll have it for another day. But the whole conversation of why Indiana didn't deserve to be in, blah, blah, blah. Look, they won their schedule. It's not their fault that Michigan was one of the worst teams in the league after winning the national championship. It's not their fault that Washington, 1 year removed from a national championship, was terrible. It's not their fault that their schedule was as bad as they were, because you looked at it. Those
should have been 2 pretty signature wins.
Exactly. Before the season, you look at both those wins, they're like, oh, those are going to be 2 really good wins for this team. Now, at the hindsight 2020, both teams were very, very bad, much different scenarios. So it's not their fault. But at the same time, your signature win you're calling is Michigan. Right, it's your signature win. That was their signature win all season, was Michigan, and certain Cignetti went on game day and to his horn that we're the cream of the crop and this, that, and the other thing. And all I'll say is this: is like, don't put the horses in front of the carriage, or before the carriage. Like you built yourself up so much, and then you folded as a head coach. You folded. You conceded and folded.
They needed to take a page out of that playbook because they were in their rocky season. That was why I feel if I'm going to take a step back and look at this whole situation objectively, the reason why I was on the Indiana Hoosiers as much as I was is because I wanted them to play it like the way Rocky played it. Don't worry about winning the championship in your first season. Don't worry about it. You shouldn't be here. You just go the distance. All I want to do is I can show them I can go the distance. If that game is relatively close, if you have a lead for any portion of that game, if you make Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman and all of the Fighting Irish fans sweat, you have so much more to gain from that situation. This situation, it's a national stage, and you just took an ass beating and you punted down 3 scores with 3 minutes and 27 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Or excuse me, in the third quarter. It wasn't even the fourth quarter. In the third quarter. So you took all of that good that you could have been doing, you lost sight of the narrative, You lost sight of what you're actually here to do and what you could have been doing this year, and that's building up this rocky storyline because you're going to bring in more transfers next year. If this thing works out, you're going to get a lot of kids next year that will help you continue to maintain this. What we were talking about is Kirk Cignetti going to want to stay at Indiana. Kirk Cignetti better want to stay at Indiana. Nobody else is going to be beating down his door after that performance.
He conceded. I can't say this stuff.
He's daunted. We can say that now. He's daunted.
He talked all this crap about how Indiana needs to be respected, and frankly, he didn't even respect his team that much, considering he gave up that quickly. So, look, this, like I said, this is not just a slight on Indiana, because Notre Dame dominated that game every second of that game, and showed why they were one of the best teams in the country. And like I said, we'll get into predictions here in a little bit, but Notre Dame had one of the most dominating wins of the first round outside of a couple of them. They played really, really well. And yes, it was a home game, and it was fun seeing ESPN host a Notre Dame home game on their channel for the first time in I think 40 years, maybe 50 years. It's been been very, very long. So that was pretty cool to see. But Notre Dame showed why it's still a premier college football program, and Indiana is still a basketball school, frankly.
Yeah. I do think that the atmosphere that we saw, and I'm glad that it didn't go too neutral. I think that it was a little bit more neutral than a normal home game, but it wasn't neutral. There was more Notre Dame fans there than Indiana fans. The two schools were separated by 2 hours. We saw that all throughout, and I think going to the next game on Saturday morning, if we want to go back to it, a couple plays at the very beginning of the game, you have that fourth down where SMU is going for it, and the guy's wide open. It hits him in his hands, and he drops it. And then you guess what? The Ponies can't recover from there. You can't recover when you're playing this big boy football. This is not the AAC from last year. This is not Clemson in the ACC championship, because that's what it was this year. The ACC championship was really the championship, because if you look at the two schools that deserved to not be here the most outside of Indiana, it was SMU and it was Clemson. And that was another school that Dom and I both were riding the story. And I've watched that 30 for 30 pretty much on a yearly basis because I love Eric Dickerson and I love Craig James and I love the death penalty and all of that history behind it. And it was hilarious that was the program going up against Penn State, who nearly got the death penalty themselves. I got to explain that to somebody for the first time ever. One of the wrestling coaches that I work with had no idea where the Joe Paterno scandal was, and I got to be the teacher in the classroom and explain that. And that whole situation, Penn State did not even play well enough to warrant, they're a good team, but they didn't even play that well. Yeah, SMU just gave that game away from the first drive of the game.
They heard Mo Bamba on the speakers, and SMU decided to start shaking their boots.
Stadium pulse.
Started losing their mind. I wasn't sure if I was watching SMU or if I was watching Jameis Winston out there because of how poorly the quarterback from SMU was giving the ball up every damn play. Look, SMU did not deserve to be on the same field as this Penn State team. We want to talk about James Franklin can't win the big game. This wasn't a big game. I said it during the playoff show. This wasn't a big game for him. This is a game that Penn State should win like this and should dominate like this. And frankly, this next matchup should be the exact same way because it's a lesser opponent. This wasn't a big game. This is a game. There's another matinee Saturday midday slate game in fucking October that we it's a ranked matchup, but Penn State will just dominate them. That's exactly what it was. And like I said, Penn State from all factions of the game, I really, really like what they're doing offensively. Drew Aller has done a fantastic job using his weapons. Obviously, the tight end and Tyler Warren is one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in college football. His name is going to be called in the first round next year's draft. Penn State really ran the ball really well as well, dominated against a bad run defense in SMU.
They did what they had to do. Honestly, at that point, when the failed fourth down conversion happens and you get the 2 pick sixes, we talked about it too. In the first round of the tournament, why not shut it down and not show anything so that next round, you don't give Boise 50 new plays that you've been installing over the last 3 weeks to scout from. Just shut it down, play vanilla. Maybe it wasn't necessarily that Penn State didn't play their greatest game. It was probably a little bit of a concerted effort. James Franklin's a smart enough coach that I think he understands that in a bracket format, you're going to have to worry about the teams that see you next. And they are – of the teams, when we get to the games that we're predicting, I think they might be in one of the bigger upset spots of that Boise State matchup, but maybe that was what James Franklin's tactic was, and Anthony Kolornicki for the offensive coordinator for Penn State. Let's not throw everything out there, and let's show just this, I formation, handoff right, handoff left, throw a seam down the middle. That's all we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it wasn't a big game for Penn State. SMU, like I said, it was a big thing for SMU to get to this point. It was a big thing for SMU to get in the playoff, have this respect where they were 1 win away from winning an ACC championship in one of their first years, and it was a big thing for the program. Look, when I look at what Indiana did and when I do what SMU did, SMU has more to build on because SMU is in the ACC, which there isn't a fucking powerhouse in currently. There's not a powerhouse in the ACC. There's not one team that I can firmly say next year is going to win the ACC championship and have a bye. There's not you, Jimmy and I. We could have this conversation about 10 different teams in the ACC about who's going to win next year, and probably be right on half of that. That's how open the ACC is. And if you're SMU, this is a program building year. Indiana, you still have to go through the juggernauts of the Big Ten. SMU, you don't have that problem anymore. So if you're SMU, you're like, you know what? We faced inferior or a far superior opponent. And I think back to like what Dion figured out in his first year at CU was they weren't big enough on the offensive defensive line. SMU was not big enough at all against Penn State. They had dominated line of scrimmage, couldn't stop the run, couldn't run the ball, didn't give their quarterback much time. This is something the SMU is going to have to work on now if they want to compete towards taking that next step. Because now they showed that they compete in the ACC, they can compete long term. Now they need to try to build upon that. I think it's a great step for SMU, but like I said, they're just not there yet.
Yeah, it's probably a season too early, and I think that we can say that that was the weirdest thing about this whole change to the 12-team format. And we're not going to have the conversation about what teams deserved and not deserved to be there. I'm not going to bring up Alabama or Ole Miss or Lane Kiffin or anybody. I just think that we need to remember going back to even that 14 playoff the first season. Michigan State got their ass kicked by Alabama. Those weren't great games in the first set of 14 playoffs. We had great games last year because teams had been built for this 14 playoff, and now we're trying to figure out how you build teams for the 12-team playoff. Moving forward, next game that took place before the nightcap, I guess I should probably put it up on the screen, but it was the Texas and Clemson game. Texas, they ran for 300 yards. Cade Klubnik did everything that he needed to try and will this Clemson team. Put a little bit of respect back on that brand. I feel like they're outclassed. They shouldn't have been here. I think the ACC, out-talented. ACC shouldn't have had a representative, if we're going to be 100% honest. It worked out the way that it worked out, and they won their conference. But Texas running for 300 yards is just a statement of why Clemson does not deserve to be here. Because when Texas needed to, they could do whatever they wanted to win that football game.
Texas showed why they were the next best team that wasn't a bye week team. They didn't have a bye by far and away. Why they were deserving to be the 5th seed. Why, frankly, if the byes didn't go to the conference champions, they were going to be a 3rd team that had the bye because they lost to one team. Frankly, they lost to one team, and based upon the way the bracket's going, they may not even have to face that one team. Frankly, they won't even have to worry about that. Look, Clemson, frankly, out-talented by Texas, and Texas just ran the ball down their throat, made their life a living hell. And look, Dabo Swinney wants to compete in this type of playoff format. He better get out of his ways and figure out the transfer portal. I'm serious. Or
and some NIL.
Because it may be cute to win an ACC championship, but to get, frankly, embarrassed like that in the first round and have people rethink why conference championships should matter and why it shouldn't just be 6 Big Ten teams, 6 SEC teams in this playoff. Like, you need to figure it out if you're Dabo Swinney, if you want to compete with Texas, want to compete with Georgia, Oregon, company for the long run. Because look, Clemson was able to do something that not a lot of teams have done in our lifetimes. That's win a couple national championships in the span of 2 or 3 years with multiple quarterbacks. But frankly, they're gonna have to revamp their system. There's a reason why Saban's no longer coaching college football. There's a reason why you saw Jim Larinaga stop coaching in Miami halfway through the season in college basketball because he's done with the NILs. You could see why a lot of these coaches are just sick and tired of it because it's a whole different way of thinking. It's a whole entire way of going about your business, and it's not. And like I said, good. The bad part, maybe / good part about the NIL and obviously transport and everything is the players do have power now. They do have power in what they say, what they do, and how they play. And if you're Clemson, you're not, and you just want to stick with your old ways, and that our way is better than everybody else's, you're going to falter and keep dropping lower and lower and lower.
I've been a very staunch, I said that he needs to change, and it's not going to happen. Clemson had the third fewest transfers, and the two teams that were lower than them were Navy and Army. So that tells you where that program is and what they're set up to do. That brings us to the last game of the first round. SEC. It got real quiet from Alabama and Ole Miss after Ohio State proved why the shoe, like, that's all you had to do. If they played that game that they played against Tennessee, and I don't want to talk about, I don't think that the players played all that much better. I think that it was truly came down to the scheme, and Tennessee just had zero answers. They got all of the emotion that's been building up over the last 3 weeks after that Michigan loss. If anybody's going to be pissed off at Michigan the most right now, it should be Tennessee fans, because they awoke a beast. This is what Ohio State had the potential of doing and being all season. 42-17 over a pretty good SEC team.
Probably one of the best SEC defenses in the whole conference. Like Tennessee's defense is no joke, and it's just so crazy to me the span of the 3-week difference or 2-week difference, whatever it was, been like that Ohio State versus Michigan game. Ohio State couldn't get anything offensively going at all, and then for whatever reason, Will Howard said, "Oh fuck, I don't have to do this myself. I have two of the best running backs in the country behind me. I also have one of the best freshman receivers in the country, and a possible first or second round pick in Mbaka Buka." This Ohio State offense still has weaponry better than anyone in the country from top to bottom. It's like Will Howard said, "Oh shit, I don't have to do this myself. I can get the ball to
you were never brought in to do it yourself, big guy. What are you talking about? It's just
all he had to do was hand the fucking ball off to Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and they'll run down the fucking throat of a poor SEC run defense. That's exactly what they did. And like I said, it's a statement win. It's a big win. And now we set up like a very interesting matchup for the next round, where Ohio State gets a little bit of revenge here, where they can prove why they're still one of the better teams in the country, and that Ryan Day's seat, it's warm, but it's not all the way hot yet. Like, yeah, you can't beat the one team, but if they can win it all, it does a lot to the program still. I understand the thought of like, yeah, well, our coach can't win the big one, but what if he wins the bigger one?
The bigger one would be something, because he hasn't won the bigger one at this point.
He hasn't won the bigger one.
Lost to Georgia.
Actually. But the notion of college football fans, especially Ohio State fans, that want this team to lose so that they fire their head coach is fucking asinine. Absolutely asinine. Because if you're an Ohio State fan at all, went to the school, and you want this team to lose so Ryan Day can leave, you're a fucking idiot, and you need to go be a fan of a shittier school. Plain and simple. You need to go be a fan of a shittier school. Because you have a grand chance to win a national championship still. Because if you get past Oregon this upcoming weekend, you have as good of a chance as anybody in the country. As good of a chance as anybody in the country to beat them. And you almost beat them earlier in the season, too. Let's not forget if Will Howard doesn't slide with fucking 0 seconds on the clock. Okay?
That's the common thread. That's the common factor. It's Will Howard.
It is. And like Ohio State, Will Howard is not going to come back next year. It's almost guaranteed. And they'll have another quarterback. Could be Quinn Ewers, possibly. That's what the rumors I've been hearing about him coming back to Ohio State and him not going to the league yet. But like there's a lot of things the Ohio State team does very, very well, and that will assist this team so much going into this next game and possibly going even further after this, that Tennessee just plain out didn't have. Like I said, look, I love the statistic when it comes to the NFL, but Jimmy, do you know how many rookie quarterbacks have started a Super Bowl?
It's less than
0.
5. Yeah.
0. You know how many rookie quarterbacks have started a conference championship?
A lot.
Less than 10. Less than 10.
Oh, really?
Less than 10. Less than 10. Less than 10. Brock Purdy
started.
Wasn't a rookie.
Started is because I'm thinking of like Tua and Stockton, who just came in, but Stockton he didn't start. So yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's
tough.
Started.
It's very hard.
These young quarterbacks early on, and I translate to NFL so well, but like Ian Maliava is 1 year away from being a Heisman candidate.
His junior year is going to be a fucking nightmare for everybody else.
He could be very, very good in a couple of years, but frankly, this helped him a lot having this experience. And this is a Tennessee team that can build off this, but they weren't there yet. Like they had the great running back in Sampson as well. They had the receivers.
He didn't show up at all.
He didn't do anything.
Offensive line didn't show up at all. I mean, I think that Josh Heupel can use this, but the same issues that they had when they were having that great season the last time they beat Alabama with Hendon Hooker. It's the same thing. And I said it on Talking the Gridiron when we were talking about playoff scenarios, and now we're going to have to talk about it in college football. But when you get into the playoffs, it's not like all of your flaws and all of your gashes just get magically healed. Actually, they get worse. So when Elam Aliava was struggling and Samson was not able to get a running game going, we should have been paying more attention to that and realizing maybe this is not the team this year. Maybe they did not. They have some deficiency. They need to get a lot tougher. They need to be able to establish a running game themselves. They don't need to spread themselves all the way out to the sideline, because I don't know if you realize they go sideline hash marks, top of the numbers, and then hash marks. Literally, the closest guy to a tackle is 30 yards away. That's how wide that this team spreads themselves out. I was surprised at the outcome. Were you surprised at how big the outcome was?
No. Frankly, I wasn't. Like, I know you and Dom are both on Tennessee, riding the high horse because Ohio State can't beat the big one. Ohio State's still a cream of the crop team in college football, and they still are. And I know that Michigan loss stings them. It's more of a hump that they just haven't been able to get over in a while. But that's not the hump that affects them, because as weird as it may sound, if Tennessee put the fucking Wolverine straps to their helmet, they probably would have won that game. Like that's how much of a chokehold that Michigan has on Ohio State.
Bring Sharon Moore in as a guest coach. Let's put Sharon Moore on the sidelines with the Michigan hat
and maybe incorporate the Navy and maize in. Is
there another school that has
Tennessee colors?
Penn State. Penn State has that dark blue. But they already kicked the shit out of Penn State.
We got a long ways to go, exactly, for that. And it's a big game for Jake's family. But like, I look, Ohio State is a very, very good team. It's a very, very talented team. We're still one of the best teams in the country, talented-wise. And like I said, you win this upcoming game, and we can get into the picks now for what we have for these next ones. If you win this upcoming game now, you have as good of a chance as anybody. Frankly, you have as good as a chance as anybody.
Yeah. So the game that's taking place first, we'll go to that one. We'll go in chronological order this time. It is Boise State and Penn State in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. I should already have this pulled up, but I'll get the lines pulled up. I had initially in my predictions SMU versus Boise. Penn State versus Boise is the matchup that we ended up getting for the betting lines. If I can get my computer to load any faster.
I had Penn State versus Boise State in the semifinal.
Yeah, so you get an extra point. So Nico has 4 points. He now has 5 points. I should
have 4 because I went undefeated in the first round. Is all I'm going to say.
Oh, excuse me, you have 5. Yeah, no, you have 5. You have 5.
So, but either way, like Penn State,
they're 11-point favorites
against Ashton GT. It's time for you to show me why you won the Heisman. Why you should have won the Heisman. Excuse me. Why you should have won the Heisman, frankly. Because if you do nothing this game and Penn State makes you a non-factor, it'll be all for nothing. And frankly, I think there's a better chance that Penn State could skunk Boise State by more points than they did at SMU.
You're not getting an argument out of me in this one. I had SMU beating Boise, so of course I think Penn State's going to kick the shit out of Boise. Because look, I rewatched on Christmas Day. They were replaying some of the games on Fox Sports. So I was watching a lot of the games that I didn't get to see over the regular season, and they were playing a Boise State game against Fresno, or it wasn't the conference championship, but it was one of those last games of the season, and they won by a touchdown. And I was looking at the quarterback stat line, and when Ashton Genty gets shut down by this Penn State defense, their quarterback they're relying on is like Anthony Richardson. He's 9 for 27 with guaranteed 2 picks. So who's throwing the football? Nobody.
If you're Penn State, you beg this quarterback to beat you. You beg him to beat you because you're
put 12 in the box. I don't give a shit. Take the penalty.
This is not. I'll say it again. How I said about the last matchup. I'm sticking with my pick of Penn State here. Penn State just needs to not play a big game yet. This isn't a big game to them. It should. It technically is, but in reality, this is a far inferior opponent than they face every week at the Big Ten. The far inferior opponent than they face every week in the Big Ten. Let me say that again. Far inferior opponent, and when it comes to every teams that they play in the Big Ten. They've played bigger teams every single week. Boise State struggled with Wyoming, the third to last week of the season. They barely squeaked by a UNLV team that barely won a bowl game this year. Like, this is a Boise State team that if Ashton GT doesn't rush for 500 yards, this game could be over by halftime.
I'm predicting
I
that
hate saying
probably
that.
will be.
I hope I'm wrong. But I do not see a world where I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong, because I think that is exactly what's going to end up happening. And it's going to be another conversation for those people. It's just the first year. We have to wait till the first year is over, and then we can assess what needs to be changed. Let's move down. Same side of the bracket. It is now Notre Dame taking on Georgia. I initially had Indiana, but Georgia coming off of their bye week. It is going to be Gunnar Stockton. We do have confirmation that Carson Beck is not going to be available for the entirety of the playoffs. And when I am looking at the betting lines here, so Boise State was favored by 11 points. Georgia is favored by 2. So the betting lines, I would say that there's probably a lot of people outside of Las Vegas that are also giving Notre Dame a lot of credit for the win that they have over Indiana. Do you give them the credit that it seems everybody else is giving them? Or is it the fact that it's a freshman quarterback that they're going up against, and their defense did look pretty good against a guy that was a former MAC player of the year? I know it's the MAC, but he's played in college football before. They're playing against a guy that's going up in his second game ever.
This is the game that I feel the least confident in terms of my picks from last week. Like I originally had this matchup, and I have Georgia moving on past this, and what I saw from Notre Dame is that they can expose things an opponent has, and frankly, there's things in this Georgia team that if their running game doesn't get going and they rely too much on Stockton, I don't know if I believe in this team as much as I do originally. And this is the rest versus rust conversation, I think, in a nutshell, more than anything this first round. I think more than anything, because I think this is the game where if Gunnar Stockton played last weekend and it had more of a full game to play against a lesser team where he got some more real game experience underneath him, it could have helped him more in this type of matchup. But like, if you also look at the Notre Dame sides, like they didn't show anything against Indiana, right? They didn't probably show their game plan or how badly.
I think that Riley Leonard is still the worst quarterback in this situation. I've seen very little of Gunnar Stockton, but what I saw out of Gunnar Stockton was better than what I've seen out of Riley Leonard. I still don't trust Notre Dame with their quarterback situation.
That's a fair statement. I'm still going to ride with my picks and think Georgia wins here because I think that they're a better defense than anything Notre Dame has faced this season, and I think that frankly Stockton shouldn't have to do a whole lot to win this game.
Turn around, hand the ball off to Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, Trevor Etienne, and make your life a lot easier and run play action. And I think that's what Kirby Smart is mindset going into this game is you need to give this kid confidence because, frankly, you don't know if what's his name? The quarterback comes back. Carson Beck comes back. You don't know if Carson Beck comes back at all this playoff. So the most important thing this game, if you're Georgia, is A, get away with a win. Obviously, that's priority number one. And B, give Gunnar Stockton some confidence so that going into the semifinal, possibly going into the final, he has the confidence to go on a run again and get Georgia to a national championship win. So that's the second most important thing if you're Georgia in this game. I'm sticking with my pick. I'll ride with Georgia.
I think Georgia has a chance. I had them beating Indiana too, just because the games that they played against Texas are going to be what they need to rely on because they didn't have great matchups. The game against Alabama is something they can rely on too. They didn't have great games. They didn't have great schemes. Their defense gave a lot of short fields, and their offense took advantage of the short field. So as long as Gunnar Stockton his defense is good enough, you are going to get a favorable situation 1 or 2 times. If you get a favorable situation 2 times and you cash in 2 times, you're at least up by 10 with these short fields. And I think Georgia's defense is going to give a lot of short fields. Riley Leonard, if he's not running the ball, he is throwing an interception. If Notre Dame transitions their game plan to more of a Georgia Tech style game plan, Riley Leonard is better than the Georgia Tech quarterback that took Georgia to 8 overtimes or 6 overtimes or whatever it was, that good old-fashioned hate rivalry weekend game that's going to live on in infamy forever. That's the only situation that I can see Notre Dame walking away with a victory in this matchup. And I had Georgia going. I'll have Georgia going to the semifinals as well. So we're even on the 2. I obviously don't have my pick anymore. SMU got eliminated, so I get the benefit of picking the team that eliminated the team that I was picking. Moving up to the top side of the bracket, let's talk about Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham, because I saw an interesting post on X a couple weeks ago, last week, saying that Marcus Freeman is the greatest young head coach, and I would want to put my faith in him and building a program. And I put under there, I would put Kenny Dillingham. I love what he is doing with his Arizona State program. I love the persona that he has in the media. I hope that he doesn't pull a Kirk Cignetti and get a little bit too out in front of his skis. They are a physical-ass team. All they need to rely on, all they need to say in the build-up to this game is you're going to know that you played us. You are going to know that you played the Arizona State Sun Devils. We're going to blitz you. We're going to hit you. When we make our tackles, we're going to end you on the opposite side of the football. That is the brand that Arizona State has built up this season. Does it all come crumbling down when the Longhorns come riding into town in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl?
Absolutely. Congratulations, Arizona State. You bought yourself a Christmas break off by winning the Big 12 championship. Congratulations. You now play on New Year's instead of Christmas, and you got to spend time with your families on Christmas.
Would they have benefited more from playing last week?
No, because of what I saw the first week is that if they played a Big 10 or an SEC school, they probably would have got their ass run over. So they got themselves another week, and I expect Texas to win this game by 2 touchdowns and plus. Arizona State, again, another team similar to Boise State, similar to Indiana, hasn't played anybody.
BYU and Iowa State. That's all.
Okay, 2 teams that aren't in the bracket, by the way.
No, I know.
Weren't even, oh, by the way, weren't even in the conversation for automatic bids.
Yeah, no, everybody left as somebody who's played somebody on the bracket. So
exactly. They played nobody. They're going to get their ass run over. Look, it's a cute story. I'm happy, but they are 1 year too soon, 2 years too soon. This is a program builder that you got to the playoff, that you got to buy, that you get that other thing. But you are playing big boy football. If you're telling me that Texas can run for 300 fucking yards against Clemson, and they can probably do the same thing to Arizona State, which their defense, by the way, is a little skeptical. Their offense is very, very good. Their defense is a little skeptical still.
They're also missing that one linebacker that had that beautiful. Did you see that? I'll pull it up. I'll pull up the clip because I was watching that at the tournament and I couldn't believe. No, continue on with your point.
It's a cute story. It's a cute story for Arizona State. It's a great story that they're here. It's a great story that they got to buy. But frankly, Arizona State, and I told you this, Arizona State is going to put the stamp on whether or not conference championships matter anymore. I firmly believe that because we are 2 blowout wins away, a Penn State blowout against Boise State and a Texas blowout over Arizona State, where we get rid of the first 4 teams that get a bye win the conference championships. Dead serious. Because frankly, if you replace Arizona State with Ohio State, or you replace Notre Dame with Boise State, there may be a better matchup between Indiana and Boise, or Indiana and Arizona State. Like that's a much closer game than we could have got in the first round. So if Arizona State doesn't show up and Arizona gets their shits broken, same thing with Boise. Frankly, the Big 12 and the ACC and the soon-to-be Pac-12, when it has 6 teams as well, is going to be on watch in terms of having to worry about playing a road game every single year of the college football playoff. I'm dead neither of those teams put on a show, frankly, win. If you're Oregon, if you're a Georgia, for instance. Why the hell should you get punished with the second best team in the opposing conference, right? Why should you get punished for that when Arizona State, Boise State got a bye because they beat bad teams, right? Indiana got rewarded with beating bad teams. They got in.
Wasn't this about equity? Wasn't this about getting more teams in and having a legitimate shot of winning a national championship?
And I think it's so interesting. And look, I'm also on the side that I think Indiana deserved it more than Alabama because you win football games, it means something. Okay, the Chicago Bears are not making the playoffs because they had a tough schedule this year. Okay, they lost because there's no other sport in professional sports. I think college basketball may be the only one, but most of that is wins and losses anyways, where it's subjective. There's no sport where wins don't fucking matter. And the whole Kirk Herbstreit where he came out and said, well, if they had one win, it shouldn't matter. 2 more wins than the other, it shouldn't matter. And this, that, the other thing. Wins should matter. Arizona State won a lot of games. Boise State won a lot of games. SMU won a lot of games. Indiana won a lot of games. You know what didn't happen? Those teams lost games that they shouldn't have lost. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. I would like to put one of these SEC teams on the road and have them get put in a pillow again. That was the best. That was the best comeback that I saw all weekend. It was Will Compton and it was Mark Ingram saying, "Oh, playoff committee, this is who you wanted." It's like you're tweeting like right now, like Oklahoma didn't hold your face in the pillow. Go on the road. See what this is like. Go on the farthest trip that you can. I dare you. I dare you, and I guarantee the results are going to be the same.
And I worry about Arizona State. Like, and I don't know, circus back.
They're going a hell of a far distance too.
I don't even know which game it is. But
it's the Peach Bowl all the way in New Orleans, so it's Arizona to New Orleans.
Look, I worry. I worry if I'm Arizona State. Like I said, I think what we said about SMU, what we said about Indiana, and some of the other teams, like this is cute this year. But frankly, big boy football is about to smack them across the face.
I would like to see a close game. I would love to see a close game. I picked a close game, but I did pick Texas moving on initially in my bracket. So I'm
free Bevo. Hey, free Bevo. Okay,
that
Bevo,
sucks. That's terrible. That's
free
almost
Bevo.
as bad as not being able to plant a flag in Columbus, Ohio.
Free Bevo. Okay, he can travel very easily. They drive him everywhere. Okay, free Bevo. Get that man back. Get that band to the semifinals when they absolutely demolish this.
Austin to New Orleans is like 6 hours. What are we talking about?
Exactly. It's easy money. Come on now.
All right, last game in this round of the bracket quarterfinals, we have the rematch of what was supposed to be the Big Ten championship. Didn't happen because Ohio State couldn't take care of business against their rival, Michigan. Michigan beat them 13-10. Just want to make sure everybody is very clear about that. They replayed it on Christmas if you want to go back and watch it.
Because the rest of the football games on Christmas suck, so you can watch the actual good game.
Ohio State lost to Michigan. Ohio State lost to Michigan. They are 2.5-point favorites this time around, going up against Dan Lanning and Oregon. A lot of time off in the Rose Bowl presented by Prudential. I had Oregon coming out of this matchup no matter what. I know that you had the same as well. So why? Tell us why Oregon is winning for you.
Oregon's the best team in the country. That's why. They're the best coached. They're the most solid, sound defensively and offensively team that frankly, if their offense isn't clicking, that you can trust this defense to slow down Ohio State like Michigan did. Is where it sounds there doesn't need to be some fucking voodoo of a Wolverine helmet on the side of the helmet playing against Ohio State. Oregon beat them this year. And frankly, if it wasn't for an Ohio State comeback at the end of the game and that last drive that obviously was just a boneheaded mistake by Will Howard and Ryan Day, Oregon could have ran that game and run them into the ground if they had the chances. But they made some dumb mistakes at the end. Look, Gabriel is the quarterback I trust the most right now in the entire bracket. He's the quarterback I trust the most. Lanning and company has done a great job, not only using Tez Johnson, but also using their running game to make it so difficult on other teams. And I look at that Penn State game in the Big Ten championship, and Penn State, like I said, we've said it over and over again. Penn State's defense is one of the best, if not the best, in the country. And Oregon made them look like they were an FCS school defensively. Like that offense was clicking on all cylinders, up and down the field, the field, and they got so damn winded. And I think Ohio State, look, the rest versus rust things comes into play here. I think Oregon was a little banged up, and that's why they slowed down at the end of that Big Ten championship game, and why Penn State was able to make that a little bit closer of a game. And now they got that rest to get into this game. Ohio State, frankly, have not played their best football the last couple of weeks of season. And they had that win that helped them get back. I don't think they're very healthy, and they're going to struggle. So I'm going to ride with Oregon. I think they're a better team, and they're the reason why they're my national and your national champion pick anyways. They're still the best team in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, they are my national championship pick, and I go back on the fact that I like the coach. I like Dan Lanning. I like what he's doing with this team. And when you have a team,
why is he not in that young conversation, Coach?
Well, I mean, he's 40. Okay, no, I guess he's 40. He's the same age. Honestly, he is the same age. And thinking about it is maybe because he's been there for a little bit longer. And Oregon is a tough place in college football. They're starting to break through as one of the places, but it is the Pacific Northwest. So it's a time zone behind, 3 time zone behind where college football is based out of on the East Coast. But what he's done with a team that's as good as Oregon has been all season, that's the hardest. You know that. The teams that we had that were undefeated, that literally had no competition, those had to be the hardest teams to coach. Those have to be the hardest situations to coach because you can't hold anybody accountable. You can't say you're going to do this and we're going to lose. No, that's not the case. You're going to do this and we're going to win by 20 instead of 30. That's just the situation that we're in. That's just how good we are. He has taken this sports psychology and integrated it into his locker room. And I go back to that speech that he had going into the Michigan game. He's like, there's 110,000 people here that we can make have a fucking terrible day. I want to ruin 110,000 people's day. We're going to go in like the Roman Coliseum. And when they start leaving, I'm going to take a timeout, whether we need it or not. I'm going to take a timeout, and we're all going to look around and watch their asses walk to the parking lot. And we're going to give them the thumbs down on the way out. That's how you motivate a team that is as good as Oregon is.
It's a different mindset that Oregon has. I think it's, frankly, a different mindset over everybody in this playoff that's left. And that's what puts them apart and why they're the number one team in the country for a reason.
Yeah. No, I have them as my national championship pick. I have them beating I had them beating Tennessee by a couple touchdowns. I have them beating Oregon. I don't know if it'll be a couple touchdowns, but I think it might be more than a point this time. And Ryan Day will continue to have to deal with the shitstorm that is kind of it's his doing, but that is the situation that we're in. All right. That was a good, solid, almost an hour on college football. Let's talk about some NFL football. Christmas Day did happen. We'll give you your time.
Unfortunately.
We'll give you your time to talk about Christmas Day basketball at the end. Okay. Christmas
Day.
Football.
Take Christmas Day basketball out of the conversation. These games sucked. And thankfully, the Thursday night game may have been the worst football game ever played in the history of mankind. Did you see what happened Thursday night?
I didn't.
I hope not.
I was at my girlfriend's. I was at my girlfriend's. What are you talking about?
I hope not. I hope not. For the love of God, these midweek football games don't work in the NFL. Players don't like them. The game showed why they sucked. Who the fuck? I understand.
Hey, Lamar likes playing these games. What are you talking about?
It was so hilarious to me that they put these games on Netflix and thought that this was going to just be a fucking two incredible playoff games. Which look, it was 4 playoff teams played on Christmas game.
It's all teams that are making the playoffs.
But there was a clear difference between contenders and pretenders.
Are you what? What?
First of all, when's the last time you've seen a team score 2 points in a football game?
It's been a while.
Never. We had scoregami. It's 31-2.
It wasn't a scoregami.
Okay, which is even sadder.
It's even sadder, but it wasn't. It was close, but it was not. I think it's like the third time in history that's ever happened.
If you watch football on Christmas Day, first of all, get yourself checked in a fucking mental hospital, and your family, your significant others, your mom, all of them that wanted to watch Christmas movies over that were right. Making that very clear. They were right because these games sucked ass, and there is not a single person that can tell me they weren't. We can have argument over ratings and this, that, the other thing. Well, this person's watching more than that. It doesn't change the fact that these games sucked. It doesn't change the fact at all. Russell Wilson, Mike. Oh, don't worry. I'll get into Russell Wilson in one of our end of the year segments here in a little bit. But he was fucking horrible.
Nico, there's been 25 times that a team has finished with 2 points in the history of football.
When's the last time? 20 years since that's happened? It's been a very long time. Okay?
The stats go all the way back to 1928, so it might be a little bit of a moot stat point, but I just got curious as we were sitting there.
I could even go back to Monday night because this week's games have been so bad. The Saints didn't score a fucking point on Monday Night Football against the Packers.
The Saints have been pitiful ever since the Broncos spanked that ass.
I'm aware of that. Then the 2 Christmas Day games, I had to sit there and act like I really wanted to watch Russell Wilson throw picks and be be as terrible as he is. Shout out James Merritt for finally realizing he sucks, as he does. And Bears and Steelers fans are also realizing he does suck because they're calling for Justin Fields. So funny how the world keeps fucking spinning and I'm right all the time. It's wild when I'm right. I know it doesn't sound like I'm spitting nonsense, but I'm right.
People think we just hate these guys, but we know the quarterbacks we dislike for a reason. We're good at quarterbacks on this show.
Tom has acknowledged that I'm right about everything about that team in green that plays in New York because I am.
Well, I was talking about Anthony Richardson.
I know what I'm talking about. Jimmy knows what he's talking about with Anthony Richardson. We know ball, okay? We know ball, and I know ball, and I know that these games suck.
Only took 212 episodes to get to this point. Only took 212.
These games sucked. These games were, and I will stand on that. I want someone in the comments, or I want someone to tweet as that these games were good because they fucking weren't. Okay, you sat there and be like, "Fuck, all right, I think it's time to put on a Christmas movie." Like I understand that basketball is not as much watched as it is anymore. It used to be. I understand that. I'm not fucking blind deaf to all that. But at the same time, even if you didn't want to watch NBA basketball, I hope to God you still want a Christmas movie. I hope to God you threw on 4 Christmases or Christmas Day Vacation or Elf or a fucking banger of a Christmas movie. Like, I hope you did because these games sucked. I will stand on that hill. I love football as much as the next guy. These games sucked.
Flip the tube. You got to watch these with a good stockpile of beer. So hopefully, whoever got you in your Secret Santa got you some good presents. I did get the retro game stick, so I've been playing Super Punch Out quite a bit. No, it wasn't. It wasn't good. It was not good. I think
horrible.
what we need to talk about is what is wrong with CJ Stroud. Because whether or not he has the weapons or his receivers are hurt or not, he sucks this season. That is the worst sophomore slump that I've seen in a long time after a hell of a rookie year.
I remind everybody, I'm not talking about this game specifically because I did turn it off because I was smarter than that. But yes, he has had overall this year, he has been very, very poor. And frankly, I look at what the Texans did earlier on in the season. Joe Mixon was the focal point of this offense. And then all of a sudden, he gets injured halfway through the season, and then he becomes a nobody in this offense. And they're making CJ Stroud do all this and the other thing. They brought in Mixon for a reason. Like, I understand that Diggs hasn't played since week 5. I understand that Nico Collins has missed more than half the season. Like, I understand that your number, frankly, Tank Dell also getting injured last week. They're running out of people for CJ Stroud.
He deserves. I mean,
I hope he's able to overcome this injury because that was one of the most horrific injuries we've seen.
Outside of Willis McGahee, I don't know if I've ever seen one.
I hope that he heals very well. But frankly, CJ Stroud just has nothing to work for, right? And this is a defense that had to take step backs and had to rely on young guys to take that next step because you invested so much in the offense in the offseason. Like you had to have Will Anderson take that next step. You had to
get all of that.
Stingley take that step, but CJ Stroud just hasn't.
Don't you remember CJ Stroud going on all of these podcasts over the offseason and ranking him like 2 behind Brady himself?
Brady? It was because he's also on these shows with Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons toots people's horns more than anybody, more than Stephen A. Smith, more than Skip Bayless, more than Shannon Sharp, than anybody. And I understand that, but I also understand that like this is like when you have a full season of tape on a guy, it helps a lot. Yeah. It helps a lot. And this is why I expect a sophomore slump from Bo Nix, sophomore slump from all these other rookie quarterbacks this year to struggle next year possibly because having a full season of game film on a guy helps. And when you decrease the weapons that he had last year and frankly get a team worse, it helps. Jimmy, they're still a division winner.
Oh, yeah, they're going to lose that wild card game on the first Saturday of the playoffs.
But they're still a division winner because of how bad their division is. So it's not like the sky is falling in Houston. But at the same time, like I think that this Houston team just got bit by the injury bug more than anybody. And I think that they need to develop their mindset of how they're going to build around CJ Stroud. Because I think way too much veterans that are they're aging, that are banged up, that can't consistently play is not necessarily the way to go. And I think that if they want to build something, they need a solid number 1 running back that can stay healthy. They need a number 2/number 3 receiver to pair with Nico Collins, and Tank Dell that could help them a lot. And I think Michael Buka, possibly a tight end, a consistent tight end. Dalton Schultz is not what he was 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
No. I know that from fantasy first.
Get him that man some help in terms of the weaponry and get it younger, because you bunch it. Brian old heads, Schultz, Mixon, Diggs, all old heads. And now you need to develop. Like you've developed young guys, right? You developed Nico Collins, developed Nate
Will Anderson. Will Anderson's such a stud on that defense.
You've developed a lot of young guys, but now you need to look. It's a hotbed. You're a playoff team. Like if you're coming from a bad team, they should want to play CJ. Go play with CJ Stroud. Want to go play for this team. So everybody has sophomore slumps. I'm not going to sit here and say CJ Stroud sucks because I think that half the teams in this league still would prefer CJ Stroud over their current quarterback.
There's so many bad teams this year. It's a little bit insane. All right, let's get into it. This is what I posted a little bit before the show, so I just want to make sure if you're not following us at FEOTB Pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is what my center of attention was about. The Broncos and Bengals are playing for basically a wild card eliminator because whoever loses this, the Broncos have more of a chance if they lose this game to still make it. The Bengals need to win, or if they lose this weekend, it's over no matter what. First of all, I am very surprised that it is as meaningful as it is. We said it at the beginning of the show, but football-wise on this show, this is the biggest game that we talked about NFL-wise between our two teams. Bo Nix versus Joe Burrow may end up being something that we get to talk about for a few different years, but it's the first time that we get to see that matchup, and it's Sean Payton versus Zach Taylor, a guy that we've been giving a lot of praise to, a guy that I've been telling everybody he should have been fired 2 years ago after they made it to that Super Bowl. And I still don't necessarily know if I'm totally wrong in saying that. I just want to acknowledge the fact that we have this kind of a game to talk about. Yes, it's the wild cards, but it's a wild card round. This is a huge matchup. Where do we go from here? I guess I'll let you start. Where do we go from here?
I'll backtrack because obviously we had the golden opportunity to be a playoff team, and we recorded during the game last week, and I didn't get to go my live reactions while I was happy. I was not happy with how it ended. I was not happy with what transpired in the second half while we were recording. I was watching the background, and frankly, we had I think it was a 13-point lead over the Chargers in that second at halftime before the fucking kick that hasn't happened in fucking 50 years, where it was a free kick given.
The Chargers are also the last team to ever get that as well,
which is insane. It's just an absolute insane stat. But look, I saw that game, and when I look back, watched the replays and watched the highlights, and really thought what happened in the second half was this team got away from the running game. This team got away from the running game, and Justin Herbert was able to expose a little bit in the passing game. The running game for the Chargers wasn't doing as much as they have in the past. They have J.K. Dobbins back this week though, so Chargers running game should get back to normal. Gus Edwards was kind of a non-existent. Vidal had a really good game, but they really used Quentin Johnson. Really used Joshua Palmer, especially the passing game and tight end as well to their advantage, and showed by Herbert still one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. And I go back to that game and like, what could the Broncos have done for it? Well, obviously run the ball. Like we saw the meme. Sean Payton had fucking words "run it" on the top of his play sheet. Literally in bold letters that the TV captured it. That said "run it" at the top. And apparently that was the first half play sheet. And the second half play sheet didn't say that for whatever reason. Okay. So the running game has been such a problem for this team since week one. Justin Javonte has no juice. Estime has shown flashes, but he really can't be dependent on that much. And then Julio is just too small to be an everyday down back. So if you're the Denver Broncos and how poor this Bengals defense has played, you need to make Bo Nix's life as easy as possible. That is, establish the run game like you did in the first half against the Chargers. Establish the run game and get Bo Nix out in space, because he's a great thrower on the run. He's great when he gets to open space, getting on the run to running for first rounds / making his life miserable. And that's how you win this football game, frankly. Because look, this Broncos defense is frankly the best, if not the second best defense this Bengals have faced all season, behind the Steelers. And there's one major X factor returning to the field this week in the crackerback, Riley Moss, who is confirmed playing this week. And let me not forget, we were at that game. Do you know what Jamar Chase's last stat line was against Patrick Surtain?
It was not good. I know
one reception for 7 yards.
He shuts down.
We lost the game.
He shuts down the receivers that he needs to. He shuts down his guy that he's always on. The defense is the biggest issue, and all you need to do is make sure that you block Trey Hendrickson, because nobody else on the Bengals defense will get after the pass rusher. If Bo Nix gets into one of his interception fits, the DBs on the Bengals have shown the last few weeks that they are getting better at taking advantage of those situations. And I know that they have – I'm not trying to sit here and say that this is the same team that beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship, but this is the defensive coordinator that made Patrick Mahomes look like he had no idea what he was seeing in the AFC Championship and in December and in the end of the season. Remember, the Bengals had to go on a run where they win all of their games that season too, the year that they made it to the Super Bowl. So all of this has happened before as a Bengals fan and as a Bengals person, as I'm sitting here looking at this. But the defense is as bad as it has been. Yet this offense,
it's one of the best,
and it's developing a run game too. And the offensive line has played together for a lot of weeks in a row. There's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of things that I always like to talk about, like why this team, it's funny because you played the Browns before you played the Bengals, and it's probably going to be a very similar situation to that as we're going through and watching this game on Saturday night.
The
Joe
X
Burrow,
factor, the X
Joe
factor.
Burrow is going to throw 8 touchdowns if he wants to. Does he throw 3 picks in those 8 touchdowns as well?
I have a lot of faith in the world of Patrick Surtain. I have a lot of faith in the world of Jake Long. I worry about Riley Moss being back for the first time, and I think it's 5 weeks now. Maybe it's 4 weeks.
You still got to figure out how to cover T, and you still got to figure out how to cover Yosivas.
Yosivas scares me. I'm sorry.
Yosivas scored a touchdown last week.
Scares me. Congratulations against the fucking nobody team that sucked ass too in the Browns last week.
When you have to worry about the 2 top receivers with 1 quarterback each, he's going to get a bad linebacker that's covering him.
It's not, first of all, with the way the Broncos defense, and I know you know this because you watched a lot of Broncos games, Jaquan McMillan has been the 3rd receiver. So I do not worry about Yosivas.
Who's that kid out of Missouri, too? I like him a lot.
Abrams Adrian has been fantastic as well as the 4th cornerback. He doesn't have to play the number 3 cornerback this week. He can be a sub cornerback that comes in. The big difference in this game is Sernod. It's going to be interior defensive lineman Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Nick Bonito and company. Because if Joe Burrow can look, what is one thing the Chiefs did? Was one thing that frankly the Rams did that and what other teams have done to make Joe Burrow's life miserable is just make him feel you, and don't give him these easy dump down passes.
Zach
do
Allen,
not give
Barton,
do not give him time to just get comfortable in the pocket, and that includes matching the checkdowns, matching the running backs out of the backfield throws, and trusting that you're one of the best defensive back core in the group in the NFL can consistently guard these receivers like they have all season. So it's going to come down to the front side.
The run defense would scare me because what Jonathan Taylor did before he dropped that ball at the goal line.
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor is more talented than Chase Brown, but Chase Brown is fast as fuck. And if you miss a tackle in open space, that's what happens.
That's the one thing the defense is missing is like as much as Cerna has played very well, as much as the other
PJ Locke is a great safety, but he's inconsistent.
Brandon Jones has played very, very well as well. Like that's the biggest problem with this team is the run defense, and frankly, I am begging Chase Brown to beat. Frankly, I am begging him to beat me. I know I think he can do it, but frankly, if Joe Burrow puts up 4 touchdowns on this team, then I worry more. If Chase Brown runs for 150 yards and has 1 touchdown, I think we win this game. Frankly, we can win this game because of how poor this Bengals defense is. That's frankly not the game plan the Bengals want to do. They want to have Joe put the ball in Joe Burrow's hands and have him win the football game. So that's why obviously I side with the team that is wearing an orange and blue.
They still have the leading passer, leading receiver, and leading sacker in the entire league. And they're fighting for their wild card lives. They're fighting for their chances in the wild card. That's just how crazy this whole entire season is. Anything else before we move on and get into the picks? I know that we're going a little bit longer than maybe we anticipated, but last thoughts on the Bengals Broncos before we get to that's the first game that we're picking. So before we give away what our actual picks are and talk about the standings and everything like that, any last thoughts on this game before moving forward?
Look, I hope that you side with a team that you've done you well this year, and I hope that you can see that something's building over here. That you don't just flip flop every single time like Terrell tells you. But I will say this is like, even if the Broncos lose this game, Patrick Mahomes more than likely won't be playing next week. They've clinched the number 1 seed. There's nothing the Chiefs will play for. There's a very, very good chance. And maybe because look, if you're the Chiefs thinking about next week, and I'm sorry, I'm talking a week ahead in advance before we get to this weekend's game, but I think it plays in a factor of this game. I think that if you're the Chiefs, would you sit your starters, for instance, last week in the year, and let the Broncos get in playoffs where they're the 7th seed, more likely the last seed, and they have to play Buffalo, or would you play your starters with a possible chance for an injury happening, but Joe Burrow makes playoffs? Like that's the great conundrum here. Just take this game out of the whole scenario, because I think if you're the Chiefs, I think Bengals would be the last team in no matter what. They'd have to go. One of these 2 teams is going to go into Buffalo. Let's not sugarcoat things here. One of these 2 teams is going to be playing in Buffalo in January. Okay, it's either going to be us or Cincinnati, depending on how the last 2 weeks go. And if you're the Chiefs, who would you rather be? I'm serious. It probably is the Broncos. It is. As well as we played them during the first game of the matchup when we played them fully healthy, as well as the Bengals played the Chiefs earlier on in the season too. It's 100% you'd much rather the Broncos, because if the Broncos somehow miraculously beat the Bills, miraculously beat the whoever the next team in the round after that is, if they play the Chiefs have been there, done that. The Broncos have not been there, done that. The Bengals have had playoff experience the last couple of years. Broncos have not. So that's the great conundrum there. And I think this is a great question to send out to the viewers and send out to people who listen to us and ask them, because if you are the Chiefs in this scenario, would you rest your guys and hope that they wouldn't get injured? Or do you believe that getting the Bengals, just trying to get this team some help, but getting the Bengals in the playoffs would be more helpful, I guess, and possibly having the Bengals knock off the Bills than the Broncos knock off the Bills? Like, where is that thought process coming?
We'll see. I'm interested to see what people have to say about that. I'll put it down in the comments below. Let us know what you think. Let's get into picks and everything like that. It is presented by Find the Good Brand. Want to get that out there. Nico, I did get the games back on you that I needed last week. So Nico is currently leading 58.
I won one game last week. It was probably my worst week by far and away of the
I think outside of the one where you were also confident enough to take the point spread and then you ended up not getting it a single game, it was one of my better weeks of the entire season. But we're sitting here 58 and 27, 53 and 32. So it's a 5-game difference between the two of us. There will be a couple games that we are different on this one, but I'll let you make your pick because I have a little bit of something prepared with my pick. So go ahead and make your pick for this Broncos and Bengals game. Bengals are favored by the normal home 3 points. That's it.
Yeah, that's about it. And like I said, it's the home edge giving it to them. I'm picking the Broncos. I still believe in this team, and frankly, I don't know if my stomach is ready to sit in that we lost the last 3 games to miss the playoffs. I don't think my stomach is ready to sit into that factor that we had one chance. We had 3 chances to win one game and we miss it. So I don't want to have that pit in my stomach going into the game next week. And I want to have a chance for maybe some young guys to get some chances next week, because you're in the playoffs. And you don't have to worry about the game next week and worry about a do or die situation against possibly Mahomes. Who knows? So I'll take the Broncos this game.
I have been wrestling with myself all day over the last 2 days. I'm glad that we got a couple days to go over this one and think about it a little bit more, because I was, I truly do, as dumb as it is and as dumb as it sounds, I truly do love the Bengals, and I will always love the Bengals, and they are probably my first team that I truly care about. What I've done with the Broncos this year and what they've given me in return. And it's my city. It's my town. I told my girlfriend today, she moved here from California. She lives 15 minutes away from the hospital that I was born in, living in downtown Denver. This is my city. This is my state. This is the team that represents where I'm from. I'm my own person, so I have my allegiances, and I think that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson are awesome, and I hate the fact that team is in the situation that it is. I've made this decision 3 or 4 different times, and it's changed every time. Nico? We are riding the same team this week in this one. I'm going with the Broncos. Why not? Let's go ahead and have the Broncos put the Bengals out of their misery. Because how long have I been saying that the Bengals don't deserve to be a playoff team this season? It's been since like week 3. Since I turned heel initially, I said they shouldn't be in the playoffs. The fact that they're still in this awkward situation, because here's the thing. This is what swayed me. Whether the Bengals win or lose this week, they need a lot of help otherwise. And they still need to win next week. So let's take the sure thing. Let's get the Broncos into the playoffs.
And they play Pittsburgh, a team that they've not done good at all season against too. So
I hope they beat them. I hope they beat the Steelers. I really do. But I hope that the Broncos win this week. They get themselves in the playoffs. We don't have to worry about it for next week. And then we'll worry about Buffalo when the playoff time does come.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the bad juju that you bring with the Bengals and bad juju of picking against
I've been picking against them, and I picked them. The first time that I picked them was last week, and I got a game back on you. So
That's true. So
I've
maybe
been
that's a
pretty
thing
good
that
about
they're doing that.
who they
Yeah.
are. I'm just hoping that this defense can show up a little bit, because when the Bengals play against bad defenses, they can win games. Their offense is so damn good.
It's
The Broncos
crackerback
defense
time.
that played against it's crackerback time.
It's
If the Broncos
crackerback
defense that played against the Browns shows up, the Bengals score 60.
Exactly, but thank God Levi Wallace is nowhere to be seen on this fucking roster anymore. So we don't have to worry about that. The crackerback is back. And frankly, I will stand on a chair and say that this man should be in the fucking running for it, because I think he deserves to be in the conversation. But Nick Bodino had one of the best defensive player of the year seasons. He may not win it, probably won't win it, but I think he deserves to be in the conversation. And I believe that in this defense, being a top 5 defense of football, and frankly, the best cornerback in football is going to make Jamar Chase his bitch like he did last year and the year before, and probably the year before that.
I'm not going to go that far. All right, let's move on before I have to say something that I'll regret. The Dolphins got me one back last week.
They still have a mathematical chance. Still have a mathematical chance.
Which is why they show up here, because they're playing against the god-awful Browns.
I know. Do they need the Bengals to win here, or how? What is their scenarios for? I don't know the scenarios.
With the Chiefs solidifying the 1 seed, they just need to win their games initially, and then I think if the Bengals win this week and then lose next week, that's the most optimal thing for them. So they need the Bengals to need the Bengals to win this week, and they need the Broncos to lose next week, and they probably need the Chargers to lose this week too.
So their best route of getting in is the Chargers losing out and them winning out.
Yes.
What you're saying. Okay.
And the other 2 teams winning and losing. They can't have the other. If any other team goes and wins out, they'll be out. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Or just wins. I'm pretty sure if the remaining teams ahead of them win 1 game, they're automatically in. Like they're out anyways. The Broncos to win 1 game.
The Chargers fucked them entirely, because the Chargers beat them, and the Chargers still hold whatever other. The Chargers are like their main nemesis, but the Broncos and Bengals, they would hope that no team wins that game and the field opens up.
Does a tie?
And Bane comes out.
Does a tie between those 2 teams help them? I don't know.
I really don't know. I think they want Bane to come out of the ground and decide that the game doesn't get to take place.
A tie gets the Broncos in the playoffs. We have currently a 2-game lead over every team in the wild card. A tie gets the Broncos in the playoffs. So I just thought about that because
I will never sit here and root for
I know
a tie.
I'm not rooting for a tie. I'm not rooting for a tie. I was just thinking scenarios in the top of my head. Look,
it hurts me. It hurts me to have this hat on in this week. I was sitting here staring at my Bengals hat the entire time, but it is what it is. And I made my decision, and I'm sticking with my decision.
It's a much prettier color of orange. It's a much better color of blue. Don't worry. Look, this game, what's the weather like going to be in Cleveland this weekend? Just out of curiosity, because I know one thing, and I know that the Dolphins can't play in cold weather. Because if the weather is beautiful in Cleveland, I may be switching my pick here. But if it is cold in Cleveland weather, then I'm sticking with the Browns here, because Dolphins can physically not play in warm weather. They physically cannot. I am willing to die on the hill that the Browns are going to win this game. But at the same time, I don't want to pick Dorian Thompson-Robinson because I think he sucks so poorly, so much. He's so bad that I don't care if Jameis throws 3 picks a game. You have to play him. You have to play him. Dorian Thompson-Robinson sucks. He is not an NFL quarterback. He will do great in the XFL, okay? That dude is a fucking XFL MVP caliber player, not an NFL quarterback. So give me the Browns here at home in hopefully, fingers crossed, cold Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm getting the Cleveland weather pulled up. It's taking a little bit more. Let's see. On Sunday, it is going to be wet and rainy. Yeah, it's 57. It's 57 degrees. It's 57 degrees.
But it's a cold wet and rainy though. It's cold, wet and rainy. It's not 80 degrees warm rain. It's cold rain. I don't love it. I don't love the pick. I also kind of just I don't know. I just felt like fuck.
You're picking for the Broncos scenario. I know what you're doing.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help me a whole lot. I'm not the team I'm worried about the most is the Bengals. I'm not worried about the Dolphins or Colts. We have the tiebreaker against the Colts. The Dolphins, like they had to have a fucking miracle, more of a prayer than the Bengals do. Like it's the scenario that scares me the most is the Bengals. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't believe in the Dolphins. I really don't believe in this team at all. And unfortunately, Mike McDaniel could be on a hot seat here because
Who did the Dolphins just beat? Because he was talking to somebody.
San Francisco.
He was talking to Nick Bosa, and he said, "Hey, South Florida would look good on you, baby."
San Francisco's a shit show as it is, anyways. But we'll get to that here in a second. But yeah, I this Miami team, I just don't believe it.
That's fine because I'm glad I picked Miami last week. They got me a game back. I need a few more games back this week to go into the playoffs with any kind of hope, semblance of chance. So I'm going with the Miami Dolphins. I'll take Mike McDaniel. Smoky Hill, Buffalo legend. Smoky Hill legend. The Mike McDaniel, Miami Dolphins get the job done against the Cleveland Browns because I watched the Cleveland Browns this weekend. Dorian Thompson-Robinson looks scared to get hit. He looks afraid to be out there on the NFL football field. I don't know. I can't believe that at this point, that is a very big game that we're talking about, but I can't believe that that's a big matchup that we're talking about. NFC North, that is a division worth spending a lot of time on. The Green Bay Packers come in 11-4 going up against the Minnesota Vikings that are 13-2. And
what a renaissance Sam Darnold has done in Minnesota. O'Connell, if Sean Payton doesn't win Coach of the Year, I hope it's O'Connell. He has done such a spectacular job with his team. I cannot emphasize this enough. Like a team that was projected to be a 500 football team, a team that, frankly, was like, well, they're drafting a quarterback in the first round. Sam Darnold they're probably reaching a J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold won't last very long. How are they going to do after they bring in Aaron Jones, an aging running back? Like, how are they going to do defensively after losing some pieces? They've gotten better. Kevin O'Connell has done a fantastic job with this Vikings team. This Vikings team is – Justin Jefferson is showing why he's still one of the best receivers in football, putting up 50 fucking some odd fantasy points last weekend and cooking some of my fantasy teams that are in the semis. Like he absolutely is a match made in heaven for this Minnesota Vikings team and what they're doing with Sam Darnold and company. But I will be riding with Green Bay still because Green Bay has done me very, very good making me money wise. Because look, they have the hottest running back in the
that's
NFL
the best. That's the best offseason pickup of the entire NFL is Josh Jacobs to Green Bay right now.
Like I was so unbelievably pissed that they pulled him at halftime because I needed 2 points from him to get to a championship game in fantasy football. I didn't get that from him, and because they pulled him because of how great of a game he had. Josh Jacobs right now is the X factor for this Green Bay team because Jordan Love doesn't have to do a whole lot, but when he does, he can get the ball to Jaden Reed, to get the ball to Romeo Doubs, Christian
Wilkins,
Tucker
Kraft, Christian Watson.
They have so many weapons on this team that Josh Jacobs is said, I will carry this team into the promised land. He said, I will do this. I will run the ball so damn hard. And this is a big kudos to the Packers offensive line too. They've done a fantastic job giving him lanes to run. His cutbacks in the first half that I saw from him against New Orleans on Monday night, I was just so impressed. The way his vision and the way he makes those cutbacks and hits the right lane at the right time, and his timing of where he hits when he hits a hole as opposed to when he doesn't. It's things that as a guy who was in a running back room for a lot of years, that just brings a smile to my heart, seeing how a running back is so smart and how so in depth in all this. Like it's insane that the Raiders said fuck this guy and said goodbye. I don't want to deal with you. Because this guy was an X factor in Oakland, because I think it was Oakland he was there for a little bit.
It was Oakland and then a season of Vegas.
I think it was Vegas. But like now him with Green Bay, it is a match made in heaven. It is a match made in heaven. And this Green Bay team, I love what they're doing defensively. They have some really, really young, exciting pass rushers too. I think Minnesota is a very, very good football team. I do. But I just worry about a playoff type atmosphere in this week for Sam Darnold. Right away, I worry about that. I need to see that to be impressed.
This is a game where I've been singing the praises of Josh Jacobs and I've been singing the praises of Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. But this is a strategic game for me because of any of the games that I'm going to pick opposite of you. I thought about picking the Bengals.
This is the biggest 50-50 split of the whole week.
Like this is the biggest. Season. I mean, 1.5 points. This is the biggest 50-50
Both teams have minus odds of winning this game. By the way,
and we always talk about it. We always talk about it. It is very difficult to beat a team twice in a season, and Minnesota has already beaten Green Bay. I think it falls down to me with the home team, Kevin O'Connell, I know that Matt
They
LaFleur
sort of
is
dominated
crazy.
that game too, if I remember. They
They
pummeled them.
good.
Like, it was
But Matt LaFleur in December is different. So I am a little bit nervous about this, but I am picking the Vikings to try and get another game back on you because I think that I need it. And at this point, of any of the other games that I'm going to pick opposite of you, I like the Dolphins over the Browns. I like the Vikings over the Packers because they've done it already this season, and now it's at home. So hopefully they're able to take care of business twice and get that huge divisional matchup. But that's one of the best games of the weekend. It's the best game of the weekend, and it's one of the best games of the season in its entirety.
I mean, it's a great game, but this next game I think is very, very interesting, Jimmy, because the Buccaneers, after losing this past weekend, don't control their own destiny. The Atlanta Falcons control their destiny with Michael Penix as their starting quarterback, by the way, which I think it may have been a little too late to be doing that. I don't know, but like it might be a little too late doing that. But Penix, I mean, Penix looked very, very good last week, and Falcons team looked a lot more rejuvenated. With Penix was able to zip the ball around the field, and yeah, I understand they're playing a bad team, but like the Falcons were I mean, it looked like London was getting the ball in space. Bijan Robinson, Renegade was able to get it going a little bit more. They feel like they were able to do all the right things. The Buccaneers could be missing out on the playoffs now after having that great year over there for Tampa Bay. They were doing, but when it comes to these, I know. Shout out
Raiders did something. The Raiders did something.
Oh yeah, they did, Jimmy. They won the game. They won a game last week.
Oh yeah.
And they're now drafting 7th. So hey, Darren, start watching Quinn Ewers tape. Because you're not getting Cam Ward or Shador.
And he's probably not going out of college. So
start watching some fucking Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, maybe tape because you're going to be sitting there with Gardner Minshew for another year. That brought a smile on my face. Sorry, I mean to go off topic there, but that brought watching them win last week. I was like, all the Raiders fans happy. I was like, fuck yeah, you're going to be so ass again next year because you don't get a quarterback. Oh, it's great. Shador's going to be a fucking giant. Oh, great, amazing. Either way, back to what I was saying. I was saying Washington is a much better football team than the Falcons. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a better football team than the Falcons. I think that they're going to be much tougher out in the playoffs. I think Washington's they've done a lot of great things this year. That win over Philly, man, they played so hard until the last second. Philly threw that game away. There's no doubt they threw that game away. Like that was a very, very
Devontae Smith makes that catch. That game is totally different.
And we could do the exact same thing with Saquon against who was
against Atlanta?
Was that Atlanta? Yeah, where we dropped the 4th down catch, and obviously everything turned around and did that thing. But Washington is a very sneaky team. I like what Dan Quinn has done on that defensive front. I really like the development of what Jane Daniels is doing. So this is a similar scenario, in my opinion, to what CJ Stroud did in Houston. It's like they brought in a young head coach, or not a young head coach, but a coach that is a defensive-minded head coach. That I know you can't even think right, damn it. Like it works perfectly. But yes, like they brought in a head coach that has experience to the defense side of the ball, and they bring in offensive coordinators or offensive coaches that work with the young quarterback system. That's what CJ Stroud did with Houston, with D'Amico Ryans last year, and now that's what Jane Daniels is doing with Dan Quinn in Washington. So I'll take the Commanders here.
On Sunday Night Football, I'm also taking the Commanders because I don't trust the Falcons. I've seen them get pounded way too many times this season. And Washington has had their fair share of bad games, but they're winning games big. They're winning games small. They're like skipping. They're doing the two steps of the rebuild all at the same time. And I think Jay Daniels is a guy that I trust Jaden Daniels to win more over Michael Penix. So I'm also going Jaden Daniels of Washington over Michael Penix Jr. That's a huge game on Sunday Night Football. And then Monday Night Football is our last game. San Francisco.
Are they mathematically eliminated? I wasn't sure.
They're mathematically eliminated. They're emotionally eliminated. They're personnel-wise in the locker room, just eliminated from any kind of contention. They have Mike McDaniel talking to their stud defensive end, their best pass rusher on the team, like, hey, South Florida look good on you.
1-5 in the last 6 games.
You don't want to be on this soft-ass San Francisco 49ers franchise, so you should come over to Miami Dolphins. And
I'm going to keep jumping on this table. I hope to God that San Francisco fans don't want to fire Kyle Shanahan, because what he's done with as little talent as he's had over the last couple of years is to be proven. And I've said it year in, year out. The best player on this offense is still Christian McCaffrey. It always has been. Always has been. It was last year. It was this year. And there's a reason why they were winning games when he got healthy and came back for a little bit. And then we got injured again against Buffalo and the frozen tundra. What happened? This team went on a downhill slide that they could not recover from. at all. And unfortunately for San Francisco, Detroit is playing for the 1 seed still. they are still fighting for the 1 seed. So I feel like Detroit is going to walk in and bitch slap a team that frankly has QB problems, has personnel problems, and frankly this 49ers team isn't going to get better. They're not going to get better next year. I'm worried. I'm worried if I'm a 49ers fan because you're going to have to pay Purdy. McCaffrey's deal is still, his contract is still on your table. Who knows if he's fully healthy again. Deebo Samuel more than likely is going to have to walk. You're paying Ayuk all this money to do jack shit for you. Nick Bosa's contract comes up next year, I think. There is some deals out there that these guys are going to struggle with.
No, it's a total situation where you're like Dan Campbell. If you were looking at this 3 years ago, the Lions and Dan Campbell are still trying to figure out how to win football games, and the 49ers are a solid franchise that have been there and have won. This is the 20th year in a row. I don't know if you saw the stat, Nico. It's like the 20th to 25th year in a row that the San Francisco 49ers have either made the NFC Championship or missed the NFL playoffs.
And this is the conference championship last year. Like if those like myself watch receiver, let's not forget the Lions had a 21 or 3 touchdown lead at half against this team. I think it was 21-0. Maybe it was like a 2.5 touchdown lead. I don't remember what it was. There was a big lead for Detroit going into San Francisco in the NFC Championship last year. And then San Francisco tore it on. If you do not think for a half second that is not playing in that all the minds of Detroit and all the minds of Dan Campbell and that game isn't showed over replay this past week, you're lying to yourself. I think that the Lions could go out and just put a statement and saying we are better than we are last year and you are not as good as we are. And we deserve to be in the Super Bowl last year more than you did last year. So I expect the Lions to put it on them.
Wrapping this up, it is presented by Find the Good Brand. Make sure you go to findthegoodbrandapparel.com, findthegoodbrand.com, and use promo code BENCH, BENCH, to get 10% off at checkout. Find the Good Brand, helping you through the good days, the bad days, the rainy days, ups and downs, whatever else stands between you and a smile on your face. Nico has the Broncos over the Bengals, the Browns over the Dolphins, the Packers over the Vikings, the Commanders over the Falcons, and the Lions over the 49ers. I have the Broncos, the Dolphins over the Browns, the Vikings over the Packers, and then we also have Washington and Detroit as the same. So that is where we're sitting with this week of the Pick'em. It is now time. It's the last of the entire year, Nico. It's the last episode that we're going to do in 2024. We had to send the people off right. So instead of just doing play, player, and bench warmer of the week, let's go back. This has been a great year for us anyway, so we appreciate everybody that's followed, become a bench warmer at FEOTB Pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel, left whatever comments that you're going to do. We appreciate it, just like we appreciated Darren with all of his comments. He needs a few trades. Lions and Vikings steal win, NFC North. But we appreciate everybody that's been here, but it's time now for play, player, and bench warmer of the year. So let's start with play. Go ahead and set up your play of the year for 2024.
Everyone knows I love the Olympics. Everyone knows that the Olympics are my favorite sporting event. Every year, every 2 years, let me preface this 2 years because it's summer this year, winter in 2 years, I get to watch the Olympics. World Juniors are on right now that I'm watching. I'm loving every second of it. I love the Olympics more than anything. And Darren and Tyler and all our friends that are Warriors fans out there, yeah, rooting for Steph Curry is kind of fun, ain't it? It's kind of fun, ain't it? I like it. It's a lot of time. And the Steph Curry dagger at the end of the game that was the shot over Wembanyama, the shot over I don't think it was Gobert. It might have been over some other French guy in the corner right. The dagger three, they calling it the golden dagger. Steph Curry has already said that it's one of the greatest shots he's ever hit in his career. Not my words, his words. Okay, don't come at me. It was such a huge moment. Like I said, the Team USA be able to come back down from, I believe it was 15, 16 points at one point to Serbia, coming back in the semifinal, beat Jokic and company, and then in the finals, putting the night to sleep. There it is right there on the screen if you're watching. The night. And giving France and Wembanyama their taste of what Steph Curry can do in big-time moments. That was so much fun. It was so much fun. And look, we haven't really gotten prime Steph Curry in the Olympics. We haven't really gotten prime KD, prime LeBron. We got Steph Curry, I believe it was 2016, maybe it was 2020. I don't remember what year it was that we had Steph Curry in the Olympics, but it wasn't – a team was not star-studded at all. But this was the best – one of the best. I'm not going to say the best, but one of the best, most talented teams Team USA basketball has ever put on the floor, and it didn't disappoint. It did not disappoint. The Steph Curry dagger, the golden dagger, as they named it, is my play of the year.
I watched the Golden Dagger walking through some random liquor store in Colorado. It was a huge moment in USA history, and it was a great moment for the entire tournament and the Olympics as a whole. Mine goes back to the NFL season because the NFL is what this show is built off of. It's the lifeblood that gives what this show is able to do. And one of the weirdest situations as a coach, I don't know how you let this thing happen, but we're just going to talk about this 52-yard Hail Mary that Jaden Daniels has. This is probably what solidified Rookie of the Year in his mind. We'll talk about the play that happens before, but Jaden Daniels obviously figuring out a way, setting himself up the play before, getting the ball out of bounds, and then running around, not even getting the ball all the way to the end zone. But you're playing against the Chicago Bears, so who else? But we're just going to pop that ball up, make it go into the end zone, and we're going to walk away with a victory here and move ourselves to 6-2 instead of 5-3 moving forward. I know that no, they have not.
4-2, and then have not recovered since.
No, I mean, going 4-3 at that situation was the worst thing that could have possibly happened to one of those teams. And the Bears, oof, ouch. That one doesn't feel very good, huh? No, I know that your play was obviously more impactful, but I think as a franchise, everybody was expecting the Bears to do something more, and it just didn't happen. Moving forward,
Hail Mary happens once a year. It doesn't happen very often, so it was a play that obviously you'll be remembered for a long time.
Oh, here we go. Nico picking a Warrior means it's going to be a good year.
No, I didn't pick a Warrior. I picked the USA guy, Team USA guy.
All right, let's go. Player of the Year. Player of the Year for myself. We talked about him last week. I talked about him on every show that I've been in. I know that everything else is going on. I don't want to talk about his personal situation because I think that that's bullshit. Nobody should be talking about this anyways. Like it's his own situation. I know that they released the video of practice. It is official. Like the whole situation with him and his girlfriend is no longer going on. But let's focus on the good things that this guy did. He came in from a HBCU program with a coach that believed in him to play both ways. Goes to a Power 5 school in the Pac-12 last year, the Big 12 this year. He is the best athlete that we have ever seen lace up a pair of cleats and play college football on both sides of the ball. So Absolutely. He is the Heisman Trophy winner. He's the best player that's been in college football for the last 2 years. He didn't win it last year because of all the injuries. He spent too much time off the field. This year, he's the reason that CU is relevant, and he is going to be. Whoever picks the quarterback first is awesome. But the second, whoever doesn't have to pick a quarterback is going to be relishing the fact that they get number 12, Travis Hunter, out of CU because he has done so much with this program. He has done so much winning that award. I think Travis Hunter deserves a lot of credit, more credit than we've given him on this show even, but he deserves all the credit in the world for what he's been able to do with CU and Coach Prime.
He is the reason why CU has become the juggernaut. He is him and Dion. Like he is the next wave of great talent at cornerback / receiver. He's the next wave of great talent at the position. And man, I am so excited to see what he does at the next level because, like I said, all the off the field field is such bullshit. And this kid is one of the most talented players we've ever seen and deserves the credit where it's due. And he's going to excel, not succeed. He's going to excel at the next level. Hopefully not with a team that we have to play every single year. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully in a team that we're going to see very often. My player of the year, this woman revolutionized women's basketball, revolutionized women's sport, revolutionized the way we think about domination and how good college athletes can be at the pro level. Caitlin Clark is my player of the year. What the few things she did this year, she surpassed Pete Maravich for the scoring record, becoming the NCAA's all-time leading scorer, male and female all-time leading scorer, Caitlin freaking Clark. Second, back-to-back national championship appearance. Obviously, they lost, unfortunately, to LSU last year. This year they lost to South Carolina. She was the number one pick in the draft to an Indiana Fever team that was the worst in the league for a reason. Number one pick. That's what happens when we get number one pick. Led them back to the playoffs the first time in 8 years since 2016, and she led them to their best record in a very long time. Like she is a staple for women's sports. She's a staple for the future of what young athletes can strive towards. And seeing her put on a show all summer long for the WNBA and seeing her perform in March Madness that she has the last couple of years has been such a treat, such a treat to watch. And like I said, as a rookie, she did all of this. We are like, I don't think I'm sugarcoating when I'm saying this. This is the WNBA's LeBron. This is the WNBA's Peyton Manning of sorts, top pick that comes in and just takes over the sport and is going to be a force to be reckoned with for years and years to come. And that's the fun thing about this. This is just a start for Caitlin Clark. She is going to go on to do much, much bigger things. And this year is the start of it, was the start of it. And so that's why she's my player of the year.
I think that she's had as good of a year as any that we've ever talked about in the history of this show. So she definitely deserves to be in contention for that award. We are going to talk a little bit about some rap things, but before we get to the rap, we also have to mention Benchwarmer of the Year. Let's go ahead. You have Nico, I have episodes, and I listened to episodes back where we were saying, great athletes just love to come to Colorado. We have DeMarcus Ware. We have Peyton Manning. We have Russell Wilson, who decides to be a Denver Bronco. Why is Russell Wilson the Benchwarmer of your year?
Well, first of all, let me backtrack to the last weekend of 2023. The last weekend of 2023. And when the Broncos went on Christmas Day and ruined everybody's Christmas, if you're a Broncos fan, where they lost to the New England Patriots at home in one of the stupidest games I've ever seen. Fast forward 3 weeks into early 2024, and Russell Wilson becomes the largest dead cap hit in sports history. The largest dead cap hit in sports history, saying a team said, fuck you, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. I'm done with you. Get away from me. That's what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. By the way, 1 win away from the playoffs. It's doing that. And Russell Wilson, likely so, he's a Hall of Famer type quarterback. I don't think you know if he's a Hall of Fame type quarterback, and he gets no opportunity in Pittsburgh. Well, he's injured for the Broncos game. Doesn't play against the Broncos. We lose to them early on the season. He hides behind a headphone set so he doesn't have to hear us yell at him during that game, and he suits up for a game that he's not active for, like literally active for, where he literally could play, but he decided he wanted. That picture right there is from a game where he was not active for, where he had his full headset on, full pads on, ready to go out there and put a knee down in case. And then fast forward a couple weeks past his regular season, Russell Wilson comes back on fold. He's doing pretty good. Has Mr. Dangerous returned? Has Russ became the old Russ? Steelers defense is playing well. They're running the ball well. George Pickens is slapping people in the face and fans in the stands. Russell Wilson's the leader of this team. Oh, and then what happened this weekend? Everything comes full circle. 1 year after the fucking debacle that happened at Christmas last year, I had to sit there and watch Russell Wilson be little Rusty Pants and be an absolute bitch and succumb to the Chiefs like he did every year when he played for the Broncos, where he just came. The Chiefs came in and dominated us because we were not as good, and Russell Wilson was always the beta in the situation of the Chiefs, and that's what he did. And Russell Wilson is going to be, first of all, if you're a Steelers fan, you got to hope that he doesn't re-sign next year, that you can ride with Justin Fields, and that Justin Fields doesn't go and sign somewhere else next year, or she'll be drafting a quarterback, because Justin Fields is the future of this team. And frankly, it's not a really bright future, but it's a much brighter future than the Steelers. And the Steelers have now lost their division. They have now lost their division. The Baltimore Ravens, a playoff scenario we were talking about 3-4 weeks ago, where the Broncos were going to face the Steelers in the first round, possibly. Now the Steelers are trying to hold on to playing the Texans in the first round and not having to play going to Buffalo, going to Baltimore in the first round. And who's thanks to that? Their poor quarterback play and the poor locker room that I'm hearing in Pittsburgh. It's funny how poor locker rooms follow Russell Wilson around everywhere he goes. It's very funny. Very, very, very funny how poor locker room standing and beef back and forth between locker room happens when number 3 his locker is in that building. Very, 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 very funny. And I am so happy that I can move into 2025 with the notion that my team has my football team has a quarterback and a coach. My NBA team has a star player. My NHL team has a star player. I don't have a baseball team, but my college basketball team won a March Madness team last year. March Madness game last year. I have a lot of things going for me, okay? And thanks to God that we got rid of this motherfucker this year, so he's my benchwarmer of the year.
Well, my benchwarmer of the year is a guy that probably deserves this after what happens this weekend, but it's a guy, you have the leading quarterback, leading receiver, and leading sack pass rusher in the NFL, and you're fighting for your wild card lives this weekend at home against a team who hasn't been there since Donald Trump first ran for president, won president, lost president, and then regained it back. I really don't know. Like, the team is good enough that if we had a competent guy behind the sidelines to start the season off, we wouldn't always find us in these situations. But God damn it, get rid of that mush that I have to see on the sideline. There is no reason why I have to still continue to see him as the Bengals head coach. There's no reason.
I don't hate it. I hope that 2025, and we didn't do Christmas presents, but I hope, Jimmy, you get a Christmas present, Ben Johnson, under the Christmas tree, so that you have something to be happy about when you're a Bengals. How the half of you that's a Bengals fan still.
Well, speaking of Christmas presents, our listeners did give us a little bit of a Christmas present. Wanted to throw this out there. I will be putting out content surrounding our Wrapped, but this was one of our best years that we've had in the show in general. Almost 1,000% growth. 445 of you consider us your top podcast. We have a 4.8 average rating in the United States, which is our top country. All of this stuff could not be possible without you all. So wrapping things up here, last show of 2024 going into 2025. I know that Nico and I are both really invigorated to continue on with this show and see how many of you will continue on and become bench warmers and everything like that and follow. But everybody that's done so far, you deserve a lot of credit. You deserve a shout out. You deserve a little bit of recognition, because this does not happen without any people that are willing to turn our stuff on and throw on our podcast every week. So we appreciate all of you bench warmers.
I would appreciate it more than anything. And like I said, we have a lot more things going on next year. We have a lot more fun things that we do with guests and different interactive things, because we love interacting live. We love interacting on Twitter and all that too. So continue interacting us with all that. We can't be more thankful enough for that. Before we end the show, I'll have Jimmy close it out. I am not letting Jimmy silence me. Christmas Day football. Basketball was so much better. It wasn't even close. I got a double bang from Mike Breen. Steph Curry and LeBron traded threes at the end of the game. Yes, the Nuggets lost, but I still got to watch Russie, the good Russie now, because we like Russell Westbrook now. The good Russie and KD go spat at each other. I watched Wembanyama do alien-type things on the basketball court. Christmas Day basketball not only surpasses Christmas Day football, it also surpasses, in my mind, I know viewership. I am aware viewership is bad, okay? I'm well aware of that. But I guarantee you, if you look at the viewership of Christmas movies over NFL football, it surpassed it. Okay, that's how poor those games were on Christmas Day. So the NFL, NBA is Christmas's day. Okay, Christmas is NBA's day. So get a fucking life and play games on Sunday like it's supposed to be, because no one give a damn about Wednesday's game and no one give a damn about Thursday game. And let's continue doing great things in 2025 and get rid of the bullshit like these stupid Wednesday night games, okay? During week 17, during playoff scenarios of this year, where these games mean something, and they really were that bad, okay? They were that bad. And the NBA Christmas Day games are so much better, unbelievably better. Watch back and look, I understand that you can just watch the highlights and everything, but the highlights and everything that you watch from these games, viewership this, viewership that. The NBA has 50 more followers on Instagram than the NFL. The NBA gets all these clips from these games that are higher than the NFL, the Twitter engagement / X engagement now, because it's called X now this year, is so much higher than the NFL still, because those games are so bad, okay? I understand the viewership's bad, but my God, if you sat there and watched Christmas Day football and sat there and said, I'm having fun, you know what? This is a wonderful time with my family. My family isn't arguing with me that I'm watching a bad football game. I don't need to watch a nice Christmas Day movie. I shouldn't watch Wembanyama scored 40 points in the Garden. I don't want to watch Steph Curry bang threes out and Mike Breen on a classic call. I don't need to see any of this. I don't want to watch the fucking Houston Texans score 2 points defensively in a football game on Christmas Day and say, I am enjoying it. Hell no. Hell no.
I don't really have any. It was bad.
There's no argument. There's no argument against those games being bad. You can argue viewership. I'm not blind deaf to any of this. You can argue viewership, but I'm also you cannot argue with me. Those games sucked, and the NBA games were so much more entertaining. And I guarantee you saw more clips of Steph Curry hitting daggers than the fucking safety that the Texans scored, and the only points they had the whole game. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
That is why you continue to come back. If you put us as one of your top podcasts, that is the exact reason why. We hope you enjoyed episode 212 of the Far in the Bench podcast. Continue to subscribe, like,
Merry belated Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad y Prospero Año y Felicidad. Let's have a great 2025. Thank you, everybody. For myself, Jimmy Pilato, my co-host, Nico Bryant. This has been episode 212 of the Far on the Bench podcast. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.